Well, tonight is a special night, and it is Pastor's Appreciation. And Pastor asked me a few weeks ago if I would do this, and before I got home, the Lord told me what I was going to teach on. And so the Lord and I, He deals with me different from how He deals with Pastor Caleb or anybody else. We all have our walk. We all know how we hear the voice of the Lord. And the thing about it is being able to follow His voice. And just like I said in my prayer, to know when to stop. And because it needs to be His word and not mine. So, I want to thank Pastor Pete, Mr. Pete. He went downstairs again. No, there he is. He started out with a scripture that I'd been thinking about. Because he said, he's talking about a place called there. Well, evidently, I've not just been called to one pastor in the past, but I had been called to a place called there. So, if I had not been there, Pastor Caleb wouldn't have been here today. So, God works. We don't always know why or how or when He's going to move and work. But He had to have me here at this place so that Pastor Caleb could have his place. So, it is Pastor's Appreciation, and I've kind of like Pastor, I'm a word person, so I have some definitions. Okay? So, appreciation and honor. This is what God said to me. Appreciation is not honor. And this is called Pastor's Appreciation. It's not called Pastor's Honor. So, appreciation and honor in relationship are related but distinct concepts. Appreciation, excuse me for a minute. Appreciation is expressing gratitude and recognizing the value of someone or something. Honor involves treating someone with respect, dignity, and valuing their worth. Now, we've heard Pastor talk about this before. We come up on a cop out here on the street, and they pull us over. We're going to show them honor. If we don't show them honor, guess what they're going to do? They're going to take us to jail. But that's honor. We're respecting the position of authority that they're in. Just like Mr. Ty this morning when he prayed about our government. He said, we may not agree with those in leadership, but we need to pray for them because we're to honor the offices of the president, the vice president, the senators, the congressmen, the judges, and all of those because they are in authority over us. But honor and appreciation is different. So, I looked in a lot of different dictionaries. And I went and got the one I went to high school with because it's on my desk in my room to see what it said because it's older. Just to make sure that nobody had changed it. And it said that appreciation is the act of recognizing or understanding that something is valuable, important, or as described. It was used in a sentence like the crowd cheered in appreciation. Or Max has no appreciation of the finer things in life. Children rarely show any appreciation for what their parents do for them. These flowers are a token of my appreciation for all your help. We need to realize that we need to appreciate everybody, but especially our pastors. It also said it's an increase in price or value. There has been little appreciation in the value of the property recently. We know that if you drive a car off the car lot, it depreciates immediately. But a house or this church building, if we maintain it, if we keep it up, it will increase and it doesn't depreciate, but it has a higher value when we keep it up. Okay. So, honor is great respect, esteem, or reverence received, gained, or enjoyed by a person or a thing. Glory, renown, fame, reputation, good name. Well, we know that we are to honor those in authority and rule over us. We know that honor. But, I like what Pastor says. You can't give honor if honor's not in you. This day and age, we don't teach our children honor. But we definitely don't teach them respect, and we don't teach them to appreciate anything. But I'm going to tell you something. There's a lot of people out here that are not kids, but they're in their 40s and 50s, that they don't appreciate anybody works hard to give to them. In the past, there have been a lot of pastors' appreciation gifts been given that people cared nothing about them. They destroyed them within 6 months after getting them. That's not you. There's an appreciation not only of your pastors, but the people that love you and what they give you. So there are my definitions. Now, before I get into what God has shown me, I'm going to read you some scriptures because we got to have the word. So there's a few scriptures on the shepherd that I like to read you, and that's Ezekiel 34:23. It says, "And I will set up one shepherd over them, and he shall feed them. Even my servant David, he shall feed them, and he shall be their shepherd." If we go to Zechariah chapter 13, verse 7, it says, "Awake, O sword, against my shepherd, and against the man that is thy fellow, saith the Lord of hosts. Smite the shepherd, and the sheep shall be scattered, and I will turn my hand upon the little ones." In 1 Peter 2:25, it says, "For we as sheep going astray, but are now returned unto the shepherd and bishop of our souls." In Isaiah 40, verse 11, it says, "He shall feed his flock like a shepherd. He shall gather the lambs with his arm and carry them in his bosom, and shall gently lead those that are with young." All good scriptures about a shepherd, a pastor. In Ephesians 4:11, every one of us should know by now, "And he gave some apostles, and some prophets, and some evangelists, and some pastors and teachers." In Jeremiah 23:1, he says, "Woe be unto the pastors that destroy and scatter the sheep of my pastors, saith the Lord." And in Jeremiah 3:15, it says, "And I will give you pastors according to my heart, which shall feed you with knowledge and understanding." In John 10:13, it says, "The hireling fleeth, because he's a hireling, and careth not for the sheep." In John 10:12, he says, "But he that is a hireling and not the shepherd, whose own sheep are not, seeth the wolf coming, and leaveth the sheep, and fleeth, and the wolf catches them and scatters the sheep. Now, I've read you a lot of scriptures, and it's all about that. But I also wanted to find out if the word appreciation was in the Bible. Well, guess what? Couldn't find it in King James. I went down the whole line looking through all the versions to see if I could find appreciation in the Bible. So guess what I did? I have a couple of places. In 1 Thessalonians 5, verses 12 and 13, in the classic version, it says, "Now also we beseech you, brethren, get to know those who labor among you, recognize them for what they are, acknowledge and appreciate and respect them all. Your leaders who are over you in the Lord, and those who warn and kindly reprove and exhort you, and hold them in very high and most affectionate esteem in intelligence and sympathetic appreciation of their work. Be at peace among yourselves." In 1 Thessalonians 5:12, the closest I could get in the King James, it brought me to the word esteem. And the verse 13 said, "And to esteem them very highly in love for their work's sake." And in the Jewish Bible, in 1 Corinthians 16:18, it said, "They have refreshed my spirit just as they have yours." I want you to show appreciation for people like these. In God's Word and in the Name of God Bible, I didn't even know there was one called the Name of God, but it was there. And in the New Living, in 1 Corinthians 16:18, it said, "They have comforted me, and they have comforted you. Therefore, show people like these your appreciation." And in 1 Thessalonians 5:12, in the International Standard Version in the Name of God Bible, it says, "Brothers and sisters, we ask you to show your appreciation for those leaders who work among you and instruct you." So we are to show our appreciation. So now, let's get to Sandra's sermon, or the Lord's sermon. Okay, so why am I up here? Why did he choose me? Well, I think Pete done it last year. I don't know if he's alternating between us or not, or if the Lord just really spoke to him. But all of you all know that I am taking SMTI again this year. And so in the third year, we get to learn about the pastor and all the things that go on with the pastor. Well, besides Brother Randy back there and Miss Tiffany, I'm the only other one in here that really knows what it's like to be that pastor, because I was for 9 months. Thank you, Pastor. But I want to start it out with this, because in one of our lessons a couple of weeks ago, and it's talking about tweaking your discerner. But when I listened to the sermon and the teaching that night, this is what really came to me. A hireling is a false shepherd. A good shepherd, a pastor, is a true leader. As I look back over my life, I can honestly say I do not believe I have ever fully had a good shepherd in my life until now. As a child in the Methodist church, we had a minister every 2 weeks. But they did not stay long, because they were always being moved. And in my teen years, I was in the Free Will Baptist, but again, the ministers moved a lot. And as an adult, I was in the Church of God where I thought I had a good pastor. And I was learning under him. But one Sunday, he got up and he said, "This is my last Sunday." I found out later that he left due to opposition from two families. And in the non-denominational world, churches I have been, I've learned that there are some just in it for the money and power. Others are embezzlers, so they are truly hirelings and do not care about anyone other than themselves. Because many sheep have fallen by the wayside due to their actions and are no longer serving God. And even some of the pastors have fallen due to no character within their own selves. I should look at it like this: God has trained me in what a pastor should not be. So, when I stand here today and I say that I desire to show appreciation to our pastors, I truly mean that. Because if you don't have a pastor in your life, you're missing one of the greatest gifts that God has given to us. Now, do I know how to truly pull his gift from him? No. Why not? As many years as I've been in church, why don't I know that? Because I've never been taught. Because I didn't have a pastor. But I had someone that they were there, whether or not it was they were called of God or not, I can't really say. But I can truly tell you what one is not. Now, there is a psalm that we all know really well. And it has always kind of behooved me a little bit, as Pastor says. Why do they read it at a funeral, at the gravesite? I've never understood it, but that's where you'll hear it just about every time you go to the funeral service at the graveside. You're going to hear Psalms 23. And it plainly says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." Well, we just sung that song, nothing else. And you know, if I don't have things, it's because I don't ask God for a lot. It's my own fault. But I grew up, I learned because I was given away. I was given away at birth, and then the parents that took me divorced at 4. And my dad didn't have a lot. Mom always sent a list of things with me, and I usually didn't give it to him because I didn't think Dad should have to pay to get to see me. So I don't think God has to pay. I think he's done paid enough for me. But my pastor has taught me that I am valuable. And I know that he's taught every one of you here that you're valuable. Because he's not a respecter of persons. It says, "He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters." Sheep don't like running water. We like things to be peaceful. But we don't realize how much he battles in the spirit for each and every one of us. I don't know, it may have been Dr. Barclay, it might have been Pastor Chris that I was listening to, but something they said made me realize something. I've had Pastor call me, and I'm sure all the rest of you all have. He'll call and say, "You okay?" I needed to say, "Pastor, what are you getting? What I need to be working on?" I don't know enough to know to do that. But that's because I've not had the good pastor. Now, 3 years, he's put a lot in us. But there's still a whole lot more that we need to gain from him and to learn from him and know how to receive and to pull on that gift that's within him. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. If I have to walk through that valley, I hope that him and Miss Tiffany are walking beside of me, because I know that they're going to be uplifting me. They're going to be seeking God for me, and they're going to help me to walk through that valley and to walk out with victory. I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. They prepare us a table before me in the presence of my enemies. And thou anointest my head with oil, and my cup runneth over. Mr. Elijah, it's time for my picture. Why do you need a shepherd? This is why you need a shepherd. You need, because if not, you're going to get matted, you're going to get dirty, you're going to get all kinds of parasites and everything else. You're going to get to the point that you can't even walk. You can't hear, you can't see. If you look, you can't see his eyes. It's all matted together. I watched them shear this poor little old guy. It had been years since he had been sheared. We come in here and how do you, okay, where's that note? All right. Do you even appreciate the hard messages when God gives them to pastor to give to us? I mean, sometimes I'm sitting over there and I'm thinking, oh God, is he preaching to the air here or is he preaching to me? And my toes have to go back under the chair sometimes. But also, I just want you to leave that up because that's a picture you really need to think about when you don't have a pastor. When you don't submit to a pastor. You can come to church and you can hear him sing. Now, when they first came here, and let me tell you, if nothing else, you need to appreciate him for his 3 boys. Why? Because they let you know that they are true pastors at home. That they are raising them up in the ways of the Lord, and that they are submitted to those that are in rule and authority. Now, Mr. Elijah is over me in the sound booth, but he says I'm kind of like a church mama, so he listens to me a little bit. But when he first came, I told him, when you're here at church, he's Pastor Caleb. Occasionally, but he doesn't do it during the time when we're officially in church, that he will call him daddy, but he's pastor. Let me tell you something. If you can't call him pastor, if you can't physically put him in that position, it doesn't matter how much God tells him to lay hands on you and pray for you. You're not going to receive that healing that you need or that deliverance you need because you've not settled it in your heart that he is your pastor. I read it to you. He set one to be your pastor. Now, when they first came here, I did listen. I tried listening to every one of Pastor Chris's sermons, Dr. Barclay. Yeah, I needed to know exactly if I could line up, if what they were teaching. I needed to know what they taught because I was the kickstand here. So, but I told Pastor Caleb this. I said, Pastor, I've had to back off because the voices, I can't distinguish. Is it Pastor Chris? Is it Pastor Caleb? Is it Dr. Barclay? Did you know you can, and you think you can't, but you can be too full. You can become bored with what he's saying because you're listening to too many other voices. And Pastor knows I listen to some other voices. I tell him which ones, and I make sure that they're okay for me to listen to. But you can be bored, and you can be too full. You can get constipated with the Word because you're taking it all in and you're giving none of it out. And Mr. Pete keeps telling us, let's do the Word. If we want to honor him and appreciate him, then let's just do the Word. But if you're not giving it out, you'll shut down. You will. You become constipated and you'll become bored, and you'll have the dull hearing, as Pastor talked this morning. But also, we have to be careful to not let the sin of familiarity get on us also. We're a small church. And I've told Pastor and Miss Tiffany, I want to be around you, but I don't want to be around you so much that it's too familiar, because I truly want to receive from the gift of pastor in both of them. Because, see, they're one. They're two, but they're one. And they are our pastors. If you become too familiar with them, you'll stop appreciating them, and you'll not want to honor them either. In the picture, we have the parable that Jesus leaves the 99 and goes looking for that one. Well, that's the one. But that's been a rebellious sheep. He wouldn't come in when it was time. He wouldn't come into the fold when he needed to come into the fold to let his pastor pour the oil upon him and anoint his head so that all of the demons and all of the things that was attacking him would no longer be there. We can't do that. We have to come in and let our pastor be our pastor. I think about Miss Carolyn a lot. Her son Tony was the first pastor of this congregation back at Harvest. And Miss Carolyn said, the hardest struggle I had was learning how to transition from Tony being my son, to Tony being my pastor. But she did, and she truly called him and received him as pastor. It's not an easy thing. Like Pastor said this morning, you ever been church hurt? I sure have. And most of the time it was from the pastors over me, okay? So they've had to pour a lot of oil into this girl. Because I'm here. I'm not going anywhere because God called me to there. They better not leave. I'd have a hard time. I can't leave. I have to stay here. Now, sometimes we don't show our appreciation because when they ask us to do something, we think they ask too much. Oh, come on, Pastor. You mean we got to come another night and pray another time? You mean, Pastor, you're going to have somebody else in on a different night? Hey, Pastor, you bringing somebody else in? I'm going to have to give another offering? That's not appreciation. There's a reason that he brings in who he brings in and when he brings them in. Unless Pastor Chris sneaks somebody in on us. But that, again, is a pastor to a pastor. But we need the fivefold ministry. And sometimes we just need to be able to sit back and hear the Word of God sung, enjoy it, maybe have a running, shouting match, who knows. But again, if we don't appreciate, or if we get bitter, or God, why did he do that? We can't do that. That's not showing your appreciation. And another thing, he tells you all the time, don't do it for him. You're doing it for God. If you're not doing it with the right heart, it's not doing anybody any good. It don't matter if it's you put money in an offering plate or whether it's you when we're having a cleaning and you come here and you're everything you had to do, you're upset and you're fussing. You can't be doing that. And you definitely are not appreciating him if you go eat him every day after church at Sunday dinner and all you do is chew on him. Sometimes it's all about perspective. I was tongue-tied as a kid, so I have a hard time sometimes with words. But, it's kind of like I've told the story here before of because of a foot problem, I can't wear the pretty shoes all of you ladies like to wear. I wished I could, but can't. But I've listened to somebody, and I might work on that. That might just disappear one of these days. We'll see. But, so I always had to wear those ugly shoes at work because I had to wear the special insoles, and I thought they was ugly. So one night I had a dream, and one of the engineers in my dream said, Sandra wears the neatest shoes. And in my dream I'm saying, Lord, my shoes are not pretty. And he said, that's your perspective. What is your true perspective of your pastor? Is he truly your pastor? Have you really sold out? Have you really submitted? Have you decided there's not anybody else? Is this the place, there you're supposed to be? And are they the man and woman of God you're to be submitted under? If they are, don't look back. Don't look to the right. Don't look to the left. Look forward and follow them as they follow Christ. And I can definitely tell you he's not a hireling. If he was here for our money, he would have left a long time ago. And I can say that because I know what he gets. But we can't muzzle the ox. We got to give him something. And there will come a day when we'll be able to bless him. There'll come a day when he'll be able to be full time. But until that time, he never grumbles. He never complains. And he don't really come and ask me, where's my check? He just waits for me to bring it to him. But a hireling, it's not always about money with a hireling, but they don't love their sheep. When trouble comes, they run, and I know. Or when the money dries up, they leave. Or they stand up here and they embezzle by trying to pull the money out of the people they know have the money to try to get it in an offering. Been there, done that. Even had one of my pastors to tell me after we left a revival where the pastor of that church asked him to take up the offering. She told him ahead of time, there's somebody here tonight that can give 1,000, so you keep on till you get it. And he told me, he said, I did wrong. He sure did. Had another one too, but that's here nor there. But we don't have a hireling here. He's not walked away yet in 3 years. He better not. We'll run after him. We'll chase him down and bring him back. But we are truly blessed. And because of that, the last part of that psalm says, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. His desire is for each and every one of us to endure until the end, and that we Either we go in the rapture or we go by the way of the grave. But that when we go, we have the testimony that we will hear God say, "Well done, thy good and faithful servant." So, it may have not been the sermon you wanted, but it's what I got. So, let's don't ever be that sheep that runs away. And let's let Him pour the oil on us every service. Let us, exhort us, instruct us, rebuke us. Because the word says, if you'll turn at my rebuke, I'll make my word known unto you. So I don't have a problem with being rebuked.